What made the flower bloom can't die. You hear it everywhere. Connect to nature, connect to life, find God in the beauty of the world. But if everything in the world withers, fades, and dies, then what exactly are you connecting to? Let's go deeper. Because the flower isn't the truth. The truth is what made it bloom. They said, connect to nature, connect to life, connect to form, touch the leaf, smell the rose, feel the wind in your chest, and call that God. But let's ask the only question that matters. What if form ain't life at all? Because the flower withers, the rose fades, the tree falls, the body dies. So if you're connecting to what fades, you're not connecting to the eternal. You're connecting to the mask, and the mask is not God. The flower withers, but what made it bloom can't die, because what made it bloom was never born. This is what the Course means when it says, God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. It's not saying God is in the petals, or the dirt, or the curve of the stem. It's saying the light behind it, the formless, living pulse of being. That's God. Not the appearance, but the causeless cause beneath it. Not the shape of the wave, but the stillness of the ocean. The ego wants you to stop at the surface. It says, life is what moves. Life is what you can touch. Life is what is born and dies. But spirit knows better. The rose blooms, but the bloom is not the source. It is the echo, a ripple from something deeper, an image projected from the formless. So when you marvel at the rose, don't stop at the color. Don't get lost in the scent. Ask, what made this bloom? Not how, but what? What is it in me that recognizes beauty? What is it in me that stops and breathes and says, wow? That's the real connection, not to the form, but to the meaning behind it, to the memory of God. You see, every flower dies, every tree falls, every face you love will vanish from the frame. But the love behind it, the life that breathed it into being, cannot die, because it never began. And if it never began, it was never threatened. And if it was never threatened, then there's nothing to mourn. You're not grieving a loss. You're grieving an illusion. You're grieving the part of you that thought form was real. But form was just a stand-in, a costume, a painting of something unpaintable. The Course says, the body's eyes do not see. They make images. They project form and then forget they did it. They assign value and then forget they invented the price. You think you're seeing a flower, but you're seeing memory. You're seeing belief. You're seeing your own mind projected outward. And then you call that nature. But what if the real nature is invisible? What if the truth behind the flower is the same truth behind you? What if you don't need to connect to form, because you are already one with the formless? That's why the flower withers. But what made it bloom doesn't, because the flower was never the point. It was just the whisper, the wink, the reminder. So when they say connect to nature, they mean worship the form. But Spirit says, don't stop there. Don't call the shadow the source. Don't confuse the image with the light. Because what you're really in love with is what can't be seen. What you're drawn to is what can't be touched. You think the flower is beautiful. But what you're really feeling is the presence of the unborn, the remembrance of what is always. And that can't die, because it was never made. That's what God is. Not the bloom, not the breath, not the tree, or the breeze, or the sun on your skin. But what gave rise to all of it, and what remains when all of it fades. So no, form ain't life. But what made the flower bloom? That's the life you forgot, and that's the life you are.